actually, because somebody I know, quite close to me, spoke to her Tory MP 2 years ago about this question over the bedroom tax, and she expressed the view that this government is actually forcing disabled people into suicide. He said, what a load of rubbish. And I went home and looked and found that in Parliament they'd actually looked at the bedroom tax, and one of the things that they were considering about changing, or one of the needs for change, was precisely the fact that people were being forced to commit suicide, felt that they just couldn't carry on any longer. And I think this government has done incalculable damage to the lives of disabled people, not just money in financial terms, not just with work assessment and so on, which, and ATOS, which unfortunately was introduced by the Labour government, but the fact that people now, disabled people, I know of several that it's happened to, have been attacked on the street, people saying to them, if only you'd been aborted at birth, or you're costing us so much money. And this is what happens in a divisive society where people are marginalised and victimised, and that's something that we would absolutely oppose.
The most abhorrent things of the last 5 years have been the welfare reforms that we have witnessed. They should be rescinded. The assessments need to be re-looked at, and also actually, I do get really, really upset talking about it, but actually welfare sanctions, the idea that people are actually reduced into abject poverty and having to go and beg for food is something that I never thought I would see in the country that I lived in. So it is absolutely appalling, and it shouldn't continue.
Yeah.
I don't want to just isolate people who are incapable of working or find it difficult to find work. I also want to include the 800,000 under 25s who struggle to find work, and their suicide rate is now far greater than ever before. Because the aspirations of kids, it's not there. They haven't got those aspirations anymore. I meet on the streets a lot of people who find it, they can't find work, they have to go for so many interviews each week at the job centre, and then they're supposed to go and find jobs as well, and basically it must be extremely stressful, and I'm very concerned about it as a financial campaigner.
We're putting a lot of effort into mental health, and rightly so too. Because I think suicide is, in essence, a mental health problem, which is depression. But depression can be a rational reaction to the situation in which people find themselves. And the programme we introduced, which was designed to reduce the cost of welfare by encouraging people who could go out to work to do so, and in some cases to sanction those people who could go out to work but just chose not to, has had harmful effects.
It's not sanctioning, it's reducing inequality.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't interject. That is absolutely
I'm sorry too, but there are some parts of the country...
Nobody deserves to be thrown into poverty.
Okay, do you want to sum up?
Right. So basically, I agree that the way the programme on welfare has worked has not been acceptable, which is why it has to be changed. But alongside that, we have to put more money into mental health. And although National Health Service targets have a habit of being missed, at least they concentrate attention. And we need National Health Service targets.
Mental health like 8%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cut it. Can we, is that alright if we finish at that point?
I think I might as well, yes.
Yes, okay. David, could you very briefly respond
Well,
to
I'm
this?
getting 2 cases a week now, people have been sanctioned, I'm having to deal with. If my fellow trustee next to me, with Adrian's support, we're putting a formal complaint in, hopefully later this week, not just about the nature of the sanctions, but the lack of humanity in Stroud Job Centre. You know, there is one individual in particular who almost gleefully humiliates people, and I mean that, humiliates people, and Val knows that as well. It is totally unacceptable. We have got to deal with this, and there is no excuse for the way in which the sanction regime is being used to just take people down, to force them into a position of destitution. And I've been there, literally. You know, I had a guy the other day, took him to our office, 59, could have been 79. He had nothing. He thought he was going to lose his property, and we gave him 2 bags of food, and he went off completely destroyed. What is the point of that? That is not something that, in our world, we should ever accept. And I'm afraid, if my fellow trustees agree, we'll be doing something much more formally, because I'm afraid I'm fed up with just making informal complaints.
Okay, thank you. And
I mean, this is too important to do politics on. It's an absolute tragedy if someone disabled is actually forced into committing suicide or anything like that. I'm not expert enough on it to be able to cast a firm opinion on it. People should be empowered to do whatever they can in our society. If employers are, as I think the questioner said, are refusing them employment because of their disability, then they're not supposed to do that. That's against the law. They need to be sanctioned for it. The government should support people of whatever background. I mentioned to the gentleman earlier that I'm a conservative because I believe in freedom and liberty, and that includes equality of whatever background, whether you're disabled.
Yeah, but your government's caused it. And Thatcher.
I'm not sure there's a great deal I can add. If that's happened, then I think it's an absolute tragedy. And clearly, I agree with Adrian that things need to be adjusted.
Thank you, and I apologise for the interruption. Lizzie, would you like to finish, please?
How do you survive when disabilities cut, 0-hour jobs, you become ill, you can't get any money from the firm that you work for, you apply for ESA, you jump through their hoops for 6 weeks, meanwhile your family and you starve? Yeah, I've been there, as I'm sure a lot of other people have. I don't have a disability that you can see. I have a very serious illness that hopefully is now past. So yes, how do you survive? Well, it's indicative of a bigger problem, isn't it? It's indicative of austerity measures don't work. It's robbing the poor to pay the rich. And we must all stand up and speak and shout and have a revolution.